The caution lights all flash at the same time. The lights on the runway make things blurry. You can hear the thunder of engines. There is a constant shaking that happens at night. A pilot breathes in while flying in a sleek cockpit. The throttle is going up. This fighter plane is moving forward. There is fire in the air, the speed is increasing, and the steel and metal are sending power. Jet may be employed to protect your country, but it's not certain. The plane might be able to transmit your country's voice. It's important to remember that the heart of that jet is important in more ways than you might think. The Saab 39 Gripen E's superior radar and nimble frame don't tell the whole story. The parts that are hidden inside the plane do. Where is the generator located? Which spirit is responsible for its being? Honestly, this is the reality behind the Rolls-Royce engine alternative that has been suggested for the Gripen. The defense community was shocked to its core when this probable deal was made public, because it undermines a foundation that many pilots, experts, and countries have taken for granted. Because of this, the rules that are in place now are changed. It goes against these preconceived ideas. This raises a very important point without just saying it. Who is in charge of all that happens in the sky? Since it was first introduced, the Gripen E has been praised as a little fighter that is also good at gathering information and performing well. The frame is light. Quick replies. The newest avionics, having little maintenance needs. The time it takes to react is really brief. The idea seemed to be a gift to countries who didn't have a lot of money or had tough terrain. The General Electric F414G engine, which is made in the United States, is the heart of the jet for now. It has a strong force. There is proof that this is true. The legacy that has been passed down through many missions and tests is a legacy that has been passed down. Because of this, the Gripen E has a lot of benefits, such as thrust that lets the jet take off quickly, acceleration that makes it dance in the air, and good reliability that makes every mission feel like a calculated bet that you hope to win. They trust it. Engineers know how to do this. The whole world thinks highly of it. On the other hand, respect does have some requirements. Even if the engine is very powerful, it is the one that connects the Gripen to a complicated web of export restrictions, political checks, and permissions sent in by other parties. This means that the US government has the power to stop any sale of the Gripen that happens outside of Sweden. Many countries wrongly believe that the regulatory leash is a menace that is buried under the metal. Because of this reliance, individuals in charge of strategic planning think that the Gripen is less useful as a strategic alternative. By doing this, it goes against the premise that one should have full control over their own air defense system. People who make decisions regarding national security do it in a way that is both quiet and real. After that, a new name came up in the conversation that was going on. A brand name in the aerospace sector that has a long history, engineering know-how, and dreams of making airplanes. The name of the brand is Rolls-Royce. This is a suggestion that is hidden under that name. Picture a scenario where the Gripen possesses a European heart instead of an American one. Could you see this happening? Let's say for a moment that it can do things like drink petrol from the UK, breathe air from the UK, and not be subject to any international export rules other than what its owner says. The idea was based on the Eurofighter aircraft's engine lineage, namely the Eurojet EJ-200 engine and its planned improved version, which people often call the EJ-230 in casual discussions. The idea caused a lot of arguments among the people that were there, in large measure because it promised power while also allowing people to be free, which is something that very few planes do. This was the main reason why it was so popular. Think of a fighter that is thrust like an F-16, but is built into a frame that is only half as heavy as a large stealth plane. This could be a possible replacement for the existing fighter. It is thought that the amount of maintenance needed is very small. Just like you can quickly change Lego blocks, you can also think that advanced elements can be swapped. Compressors and fan modules are the same, including parts of the turbine in the bundle. The whole system is made up of parts. This leads to lower costs during times of relative calm. This is why people live amid wars. It means that there are more people leaving. The time it takes to turn around is shorter. There will be less time when things are down. Business logistics cause less headaches. There isn't any hype around its modular lifecycle architecture. The goal of this talk is to provide a real engineering mindset that is all about being ready and saving money. People thought that the intended improvement to the Rolls-Royce engine would provide even more benefits. Using more advanced designs made it possible to increase the thrust output to between 102 and 120 kilonewtons, one that makes the engine that is already in use better. Because of this, the climbs are faster, the acceleration is better, the cargo capacity is higher, and the energy levels during fights are higher. In other words, each pound of power gives you more. When you add the Gripen's featherweight build to this punch, it becomes an incredibly powerful weapon. Because of this, the plane would respond not only to what the pilot wanted, but also to the country's defense policy. An increase in fuel economy was also expected. The Gripen could get a longer range per fuel load, a longer loiter time on patrol, and a better fuel economy during long-distance deployments if it had modern materials, a better turbine design, and better thermal management. This is very critical for countries that have a lot of airspace to protect, not many bases, tough weather, or runways that are far apart from each other. This is not even close to what luxury means. This is the only option. This is what decides if a threat is caught before dawn or at all. Over time, the quantity of benefits grows. However, the problems get worse. It is not the same to change the engine in a jet as it is to change the engine in a car. It needs to be redesigned in a big and detailed way. Before installation, the airframe must be carefully checked, as it was developed based on the F414G's size, weight, airflow, and heat output. The amount of air that is taken in must be the same as the amount of air that flows out. To keep cooling systems working, it's important to control how fresh heat spreads. Changing the engine mounts is crucial so that they can handle different types of stress. The lines that carry fuel and hydraulic fluids need to be changed. All of the following need to be retooled. These are soft wiring, maintenance procedures, and flight computer logic. In other words, every single bolt, that is, all of the sensors. There isn't a single panel missing. Everything needs to be changed in some way. This goes beyond just retrofitting. This is what rebirth is all about. This is a direct cause of the very high expense that is expended. The time invested is much more significant than the significance. Testing on the ground needs to be done again. Simulation runs need to be longer, pilot training needs to start over from the beginning, and maintenance staff needs to be taught and trained again. In order to meet international airworthiness standards, the certification needs to be updated. It is necessary to change the authorization for export paperwork. You need to be patient to make these kinds of investments, which are not worth millions but hundreds of millions. Many countries are likely to raise issues. A lot of people who make decisions might act this way. The best thing to do is still to keep doing what has worked in the past. The famous and cozy. There has been a demonstration of this. Because of this, this idea is still a hard one for people in the community to talk about. From a strategic point of view, though, it also provides freedom. It also gives countries that want to break free from political restrictions a way to do so. A way to use your power. Giving them a way to come up with their own defense plan. A way for them to completely own their guns and gear. This is not a place to rent, you own them. This road looks like a good answer for governments who are worried about alliances, power shifts, supply chain problems, or export bans. The issue isn't limited to certain types of aircraft or engines. We are talking about a subject of sovereignty. This discourse about the engine being favored can help us comprehend how modern defense acquisition is more challenging. The evidence presented here shows that fights happen not only in the air and on battlefields, but also in politics, boardrooms, treaty texts, and supply lines. One part, which is also called an engine, has the power to define whole alliances, affect export markets, and decide whether a country is free or not. Because of the weight behind a single jet part, you need to be extra careful. Partly because steel and politics change history all the time. Because Rolls-Royce made this claim, we have to ask ourselves, does real power come from just having a lot of money and size? Or does it come from smart design and being able to make your own decisions? This statement calls into question the concept that things that are bigger, heavier, and more expensive always win. It also says that when there is a conflict, clever architecture, modular design, quick maintenance, low cost, and independence are more important than anything else. Some cinemas may not want the Joker to be sly. This is something that might happen. It could have been built to last, to make sure it can be trusted, to be more particular for our presence. This discourse isn't just a theory for countries that are spread out over large areas, have to deal with harsh weather, and face hazards that aren't always clear. Yes, this is true. You need to finish the assignment straight away. This will have effects for flying pilots, taxpayers, families, and the future, among other things. Starting at the Baltic Sea and going all the way to Canada's Arctic. The whole trip is from Europe to the Americas, from the highest levels of government to the most isolated airstrips. There is a lot of weight everywhere you look on the idea of an engine change in the Gripen. There is an impact on the rules that control exports, so it has an effect on how independent the corporate sector is. There is a link between this and strategic positioning. It affects how much trust there is between countries. We are at a point right now where we have to pick between two alternative paths. You can see a Gripen in the sky, it gets involved in the fight. Keeps itself safe. It keeps us safe. I'm talking about the F414G. In general, it does a good job. A proposition, on the other hand, is a reasonable claim. A prediction of what will happen in the future. This statement includes a promise of more control, more independence, and more openness about strategic choices. Countries will do it if they are ready to take that chance. If they decide to work towards that future, they may build a form of air power that only they are responsible for if they are willing to put in the labor, money, time, and political will. This is as long as they don't give in to outside pressure. This is a strong statement of sovereignty that is proud of what it has done. The truth about the Rolls-Royce engine deal for the Gripen is much more important than most people think in the fields of metal and physics. It matters when it comes to who you are. To offer a few words on the future and what is ahead. The thrust figures don't conclude the discussion, at least not as far as the conversation is concerned. At first, it is there. People who are used to hearing the sound of the engine will notice a shift as they watch jets lift off into the sky. The sound of power that is limited by rules from another country is not taken into account. A proclamation of independence is on the other end of the scale, an indicator that a country has decided to build its defenses based on what it thinks is best and what it expects. A sign that people who establish businesses, not merchants, will be in command of the future. This Gripen has a British engine that is well known. This is how Swedish bodies look. In the middle of Europe, geographically, a statement that means something to people all over the world. Please show your support by saying you agree with the analysis, whether or not it has helped you understand how contemporary air power is built, using weapons, decisions, rules, engineering, and guts. A video that you like. Sign up to get the news feed for this channel. You should talk to someone who is interested in how defense works about it. We ask that you stay with us as we continue our investigation, learn more truths, and see how the sky changes with each choice we make. Mostly because the decisions that are taken long before the planes take off from the ground are what really write history. This is the main reason behind this.